Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and today we're going to talk about Elemental Affinity, Health Bars, Damage versus Flesh, Armor and Shields, Corrosive, Cryo, Shock, Radiation, Fire, all that good stuff. Now, first things to pay attention to are what are you fighting? Now, you may not actually be able to see from like a distance like I can, but here you can see I've got a Warden. He's got a blue health bar, that's going to be a shield, and a red health bar, that's going to be flesh. Now over here you can see we've got a Synth. That's got a blue health bar as well. That's going to be a shield, but then it's got yellow, which is going to be armor. It's a synth. It's not made of humanoid type flesh, so it's just made of armor. Sometimes I've seen some badasses that have all three. Sometimes you'll just have some, beasts that are running around and they're only going to have flesh, and you'll have just, different mixes as you go. So that's your health bars kind of explained. And even in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see mine. Red, health. Yellow is coming from my armor shield, and then if I swap this over from armor shield to, say, an energy shield, where's one here, you'll see now that it's going to be blue. So you can even use that example for yourself as well. So that's the colors of what you're looking at. Now, the difference comes to what is effective against what. This is your big game of rock, paper, scissors as you go through. First thing you're going to be dealing with here is kinetic. Kinetic is your base damage. If you have a shotgun, it has no damage type. If you have any weapon, it has no damage type. It is kinetic. Like this, as you can see. And the nice thing is the game tells you, as you can tell. Damage versus flesh, normal. Damage versus armor, normal. Damage versus shield, normal. Flesh, red. Armor, yellow. Shield, blue. Remember those? You'll be in pretty good shape. Now, I will say, logically, a lot of these make sense. A couple of them are a weird little stretch, and one of them seems counterintuitive, but when you have a video game type, program, probably just have to make decisions on what works and what doesn't. Some things do and don't make sense. This weapon has shock. As you can see, against flesh and armor, it's very weak. Well, if you picture me getting shocked with a taser, I'm probably going to be okay, just, not really standing too straight up. As for armor, shock is going to do next to nothing. It's just, a piece of armor. Picture Iron Man, not doing too much, just going to bounce off. But a shield, say an energy shield like we just put on, shock and energy, those two are going to kind of combine, maybe like short out the shield, if you're going to think about it logically, very strong. So against shields, shock is the absolute best. It's not the only one, but it is the best. Next, we're going to look at radiation. Now, against flesh, radiation is normal. Picture a human being, same principle. If you have a flesh being, radiation will eventually not be a great thing for you, but going to just do standard damage. So if you have a radiation, you're going to do okay against flesh, and you're going to be very effective against shields. It's not very strong, but it is strong. Now, I should make the distinction here. I forget who did it. It might have been Moxie. I've seen charts and stuff of it. When you're on normal difficulty, this stuff doesn't matter as much. It might be, say, 125% versus 75%. If you're on easy, it might be like 10% plus or 10% minus, depending on if it's strong or weak. But if you are playing on hard, which I would imagine many of you are, you're going to be dealing with a much more weighted game of rock, paper, and scissor. So here you can see even weak and strong, that might be 150%. And if you get up to very weak and very strong, that might be like 50% damage and then 175% bonus damage. The thing about playing on hard, if you play the rock, paper, scissors game, you're actually able to do more damage, but you just have to be aware of like the health bar and the weapon you're shooting. You can't just go around and blast the same neutral gun the whole time. You'll kill stuff, no problem. Problem is, you won't be as effective as you could be if you were switching stuff around. And that's just kind of getting a grasp as to which damage types and what you're fighting. As I said, some things can have all three health bars. So you literally might be more effective if you start with, say, for flesh, we'll get to Incendiary, and then maybe it's got an armor health bar, so you go with something else, and then it's got a shield health bar, and then you finish it up with radiation. If you rotate through all three, you're going to be way faster at killing that enemy than you would if you just stuck with a basic normal weapon, or especially if you use the wrong weapon, you would be even slower. So this is where paying attention, especially if you're playing on hard, which I do recommend, the higher tier loot. It's not that much more difficult. You get more money, just seems to be paying off overall. So, radiation, strong against shields. Remember that. Not very strong, that's shock, but against shields, radiation is strong. So for shields, our two main ones that we're going to be looking at. Shock is your number one choice. Radiation is your number two choice. Now, next thing we're going to be looking at, we've got Corrosive down here. Now, Corrosive, this is the only one for me that kind of, I feel like, breaks logic. So if you picture armor, big pieces of metal, you throw chemicals on them, acids, whatever it may be, that's going to be pretty effective because it could just melt through. I'm picturing, like, you know, the movie Aliens and their, like, saliva that just cuts through spaceships, basically. Basically, Corrosive against armor is very strong. So if you have anything that armored, anything with that yellow health bar showing up, very strong to use Corrosive when you get the chance to use it. Now, for me, I think damage versus flesh, I'm sorry if you throw acid on my body, picture Two-Face, it's not going to be a good day. I guess maybe it won't kill me, but it is going to be quite painful. So this, I feel like very weak is an odd choice here. Maybe if it was weak or normal, logic would work better in my head, but that's just me. But also if you picture Corrosive and you have, say, like an energy shield, that is not going to do a thing. It's a chemical thrown on an energy shield, just going to fall off. Nothing's going to happen. So that would make sense to me. So for armor, Corrosion is your #1 choice miles away. Now, your backup option is going to be Cryo. Now, against armor, Cryo is going to take metal, make it cold, make it fragile, make it stiffer, hard to move. Flesh, it's normal. So again, neutral damage there for flesh. Against shields, cold's not doing a thing. Energy shields don't care if they're cold or hot or whatever. They're just working. So Cryo's not doing much against a shield, but against armor, it's quite effective. Not as good as Corrosive, but it is still quite effective. That's Cryo. Then, final one we've got over here is going to be Incendiary. Now, Incendiary, logically, if you picture a flamethrower, very effective against flesh. Kind of how that works. Damage versus armor, that's kind of what it's for. You're not going to take much damage from fire. And then shields as well. Energy shield doesn't matter, as I said, if it's hot or cold, it's still good. And then finally, as I said, you have on your base weapons, you've got kinetic, which is your neutral between everything. So, part of playing on hard and taking the most advantage of all of this is making sure you have your bases covered. Now, you may have a weapon you just love using, and just you use it all the time. I do. I have a shotgun. I probably have to track it down again somewhere in here. This assault rifle's been actually really awesome. Yeah, that one. That assault rifle's been a ton of fun. The way this thing hits right now for me, this thing is just... It's really effective. I can charge it up. And it just hits hard. It's one of my higher DPS weapons at the moment. It's just a kinetic thing. Not a big deal. But if I come in here and I go grab, say, a sniper rifle, this thing is standard. This thing is also standard. This thing has a 20% chance at shock, or it's kinetic. And this sniper rifle is a legendary, and it has both on it, so that's actually quite fun. And if you come in here, this is kind of where you want to pay attention to what you're fighting. So you'll notice this thing's got drift to it too. Far distance, nothing for range. Going to be a tough shot, because this actually has travel time. So it's not like a hit scan weapon. So everything's going to be a little bit different. But so you can see here, I've got a blue shield. So if we go back to shields, say I've got a boss, especially this would be more effective, or a badass or something like that that's got a chunky health bar. If you have the option to either pull out radiation, which I do, or the other option would be shock, you could potentially put some good chunks into these enemies. So if I can tag him with one, you can actually see he's going to get radiated. And radiation is going to hit harder than if I go over to corrosion. Same thing here. If I can find somebody with a shield and hit him with corrosion, it's resisted. So you can actually see it's going to tell you on a couple of these that this is like, that's not a great idea. Even a critical hit, not going to be as effective. Now, corrosion does have the tick damage, so it's not the worst idea, but not as effective as it could be. Shock is just going to zap a shield, especially those ones walking around with energy shields. That's going to be the most effective. It's pretty simple. If you have any beast-type enemies, I call them beasts, but basically any wildlife that are out there, anything that's fire-related, you know, if I can switch over... If I can actually shoot that thing at a beast and actually have it hit, it's going to do a ton of damage because it's just flesh. It's going to melt. It's pretty straightforward, and those are going to be some painful shots. So that's going to be your incendiary. If I come over here, I've got my kinetic straight up, but then the other side, I've got my shock. So I've got like a taser on this thing, basically, which is a one-off. So if I can find something with the shield, I can actually hit it if they would stand still. I doubt I can get it there, but if I can actually hit him, here, I'll walk down here. So here's Flesh, for example. I'll show you this. So I've got the Incendiary. Huge damage numbers. Like, that's a ridiculous... 1,400 is crazy. So, again, matching things will really get you that, like, big addition. But if I use the wrong thing, if I use, say, like, Corrosion against Flesh or Radiation, not going to be that... Or Corrosion or Cryo, not going to be that great. I'm probably getting him crossed in my head. If I can find one of these guys with a taser... Warden, for example. One taser, that shield's going to be gone. And now he's good. Now that he's on Flesh, now if I hit him with fire...
You could have been programmed to sing, and you don't even know.
Not even fast enough to do that, because the... So again, this is where you can see, if I hit him with fire... Well, it's got to actually get there. If I hit the... Come on, this thing's range is tiny, though. Like, you can hit a critical, you can burn enemies, and again, level's going to be a thing. Notice how weak that thing is against the shield? It's not very strong at all. But if I come over here, and I grab this thing, now I can start taking them out pretty fast. I don't know what this thing is firing. Good wild. And then on top of that, I've got Cryo over here. Not really going to do too much, but as it's my ability, I can throw that thing out and just really slow things down a little bit. Yeah, this is kind of a slow-firing shotgun. This thing is putting in some work. So you're going to be effective at most of what you do. Nothing's going to be too dramatic. Some things just may take a little longer. But if you're at Ultimate Vault Hunter, or if you're going against some high-level gear enemies, or whatever it may be, but you're like, okay, this stuff's really taken me a long time, this is probably the factor that's making a difference. And it is especially a thing if you're playing on hard mode to pay attention to. So, you're going to be able to get through your fights as long as you play smart, have cover, don't completely get in over your head against something ridiculous, or if you're able to dodge and move around and kind of keep yourself with your head on your shoulders. But, playing on hard, or especially if you're just paying attention to damage choices, if you're against a badass, and it's just like a badass rioter guy, and all it is just Flesh, and you can hit him with fire straight up a few times and get some good critical shots, he's going to go down damn near twice as fast as if you were just using, like, kinetic. And then if you use the wrong thing, say if you use Corrosion on it, let's have it come down here. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Say I use Corrosion on Flesh, which in my head still would work, but that's just how the game is. If I use Corrosion and I'm trying to kill him on Flesh, it would be much smarter if I just at least went over to Radiation. I'd be hitting for plus as opposed to minus. So this is kind of what I'm talking about here with the damage types and everything. I hope this helps explain it, gave you some examples with gameplay, the walkthrough. If you're ever not entirely sure, just check what you're using. Your ordnance can have, you know, singularities, which are just going to pull things in. They're very effective, but they're not going to do a specific amount of damage. Check your skills. Like, I know my main skill is Cryo. Certain augments are going to get Radiation in there. Things can change depending on what you go for. If you've got a really awesome loadout, but you don't quite have Radiation covered, well, maybe you choose to go with a different augment so you've got Radiation at least as kind of an option in case you need it in that pinch moment where there's a really tough enemy, and Radiation's going to be a good option. So, take a second, learn these. I wrote them down here just in a chart on a notepad so I could say them to you guys. But overall, Flesh, Fire, Armor, Corrosive is your number one. Cryo's kind of a backup. And then Shields, Shock is your number one, and Radiation is your backup. Neutral, middle of the game all the time. If you got a B shotgun and it's neutral, you're still going to be having a pretty good time. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like below. Leave a comment if you got anything about this or anything else you want to see me make content on for Borderlands. Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying my stuff. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you want to support me is always appreciated. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.